Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I've had a couple questions recently about camera views, and I thought I'd show you guys how I set up my camera views. Now, I'm not talking about the wing views per se and the sort of internal views that people like to use for the cinematic types of videos. In planes like the 737 and the ATR, and I'm sure the A320, they take a little bit of effort to, you have to make some file changes to get access to those sorts of views to be able to set them up. And there's a bunch of videos out there about that. I'm not doing a video about that. What I'm doing a video about today is camera views, the views that I use, the cockpit camera views, the views that I use when I fly the airplane. And I just bought this beautiful Beech 18, and so this is a perfect opportunity to show you exactly how I do it. So let's get into the cockpit and we'll get started. All right, here we are in the cockpit of the Beech 18. I use the standard Asobo keys for moving around the cockpit in order to set the views that I want, but I use my own custom key controls to actually set the cameras and then switch from one camera to the other. The keyboard, the arrow buttons on your keyboards do pretty much exactly what you would expect them to do. The right arrow moves the view to the left, or yeah, the right arrow moves the view to the left. The right arrow moves the view to the right, left arrow to the left, up goes up, down goes down. The Alt plus up and Alt plus down. So if you hit Alt and then down, it's going to move backwards. If you hit Alt plus up, it's going to move forward. Now notice I didn't say zoom in and zoom out because that's not per se what it does, and I'll show you an example of that later. And if you want to get back to the original pilot view, no matter where you are, it could be over here and down and forward and over, and you just hit the key F, Foxtrot, takes you right back to the cockpit view. Now to look around, you use the shift and the up, down, left, right keys. If I hit shift and up, I'm going to look up. If I hit shift and down, I'm going to look down. If I hit shift and right, I'm going to look right. Shift and left, I'm going to look left. And they all kind of work based on where you're looking at the time. So if I'm looking forward and I just hit the shift and the right key, I look to the right like that. But let's say we hit F and we come back to the standard view. Let's say I hit shift down and I'm looking down, and then I hit shift right. It sort of twists your view to the right. So everything is relative to where you're already looking, including the Alt up and down. So remember I said Alt up and down is not zoom in and zoom out, it's forward and backward. So here I'm hitting Alt forward, it's not zooming in, it's going forward. And if I hit Alt down, it's not zooming out, it's moving backwards. So all these key combinations move the physical camera in whichever direction we're talking about. So there's really only 10 keys, or 10 movements. Move left, move right, move up, move down. Those are the arrow buttons. And then the Alt up is move the camera forward, Alt down is move the camera backward, and then shift left is to look left, shift right is to look right, shift up is to look up, and shift down is to move down. Now those are all standard key settings, key bindings in the controls. So for these you don't have to change anything, and that's perfect. Asobo has also assigned their own custom cockpit views, and you can get these by looking around by using Control and then any one of the number keys on the top row of your keyboard. Now I don't have a separate number pad, so I don't use a number pad, and I believe the number pad works differently than the physical numbers on the keyboard. In other words, I think if you hit 1 on the keyboard, it will do something different than hitting 1 on the numeric keypad, if that makes any sense. But I don't have a numeric keypad. I only use the keyboard and the numbers on the top row of the keyboard. So if you want to look at what Asobo has assigned to each of their custom cameras, you just hit Control and then 1, Control and then 2, 3, etc. And some of these are good, and I may steal a couple of these. That one I'm not going to use. But some of them are good, and some of them are worth taking and using. You don't have to bother, moving your camera around to get it set up where you want it and then saving it. So we'll keep some of those. But let's look now into the settings at how we actually save them. Now let's take a look at our camera views and the controls options. Now I already have all of this set up, but I'm going to do it for you from the default settings so that you can see exactly how I do it. We want the camera and then cockpit camera. And the first thing we want to do is search by input. We want to search by all of the numbers 1 through 0 and see whether they're assigned to anything, because we don't want them assigned to anything so that we can use them. So you can see here ATC panel choice 0, click into there, click clear current input and validate. And now 0 is available for our use. I'm just going to save this as a new profile. So now 0 is available for our use. Now let's look for 1. I want to look in there, clear, validate. 2, clear, validate. 3, clear, validate, etc. I'm going to finish the rest of the numbers. I'm not going to go through this entire thing with you watching. I'll be right back once I've cleared all these numbers. Okay, now I've cleared all of the numbers 0 through 1, or 1 through 0, however you want to look at it. And one of the things that I did notice is that when I put in the number 9, the number 9 was assigned to 2 different inputs. So you want to make sure that you clear all of the inputs for any number. So you want to make sure that each number is completely clear. Now we're in the cockpit camera settings. And I don't remember this actually being the case, but it looks like that the default for save custom camera 0 through 9 is Control Alt 0, Control Alt 1, etc. And that's what I have them assigned to. That's what I have them set as. And I have it set as on press. So if this is what you see for your save custom cameras 0 through 9, which again, I don't remember that's what it was by default, but apparently it is. If this is what you see, we're good to go. If it's not what you see, you want to go into, for custom camera 0, you want to clear whatever is in there and then validate that. So let's say we want to clear that and validate, and then we want to go in, click into the start scanning, and then Control Alt 0, and then on press and validate. You just want to make sure that all of these cameras have the same Control Alt 0, Control Alt 1, Control Alt 2, etc. And now the next thing we want to do is go to, let's see here, where are we? This is the next thing. This definitely we want to change. So we want to go to load custom camera 0 through load custom camera 9. And we want to go through and clear these out. I want to clear this input, validate, clear input, validate. And this is just one way of making it just a little bit easier. This way we can actually load the cameras that we set up with one key press instead of 2 key presses. That's why we cleared 1 through 0 before. So I'm going to clear and validate all of these. 0 through 9, or 1 through 0, however you want to put it. And then you want to come in here and click into Start Scanning. And for Load Custom Camera 0, I just want 0. On press and validate. And for 1, Start Scanning, I want 1, validate. 2, validate. And it's all automatically going to be on press, which is great. 3, validate. 4, validate. 5, validate. 6, validate. You guys are probably getting the idea here. 7, validate. 8, validate. And 9, validate. So now what we have is the Save Custom Camera 0 through 9 is Control-Alt 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. And we have the Load Custom Camera 0 through 9 as just the numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And so what we can do now is go into the cockpit, assign the camera view using Control-Alt and the number, and then in order to switch to that camera view, all you have to do is press the number. Makes it very, very easy. So for number 1, I always use an overhead view, the view of the overhead panel. Asobo has assigned a somewhat of an overhead view with Control 5 in this particular case, but that doesn't quite do what I want it to do. So let's set it up here. I'm going to use the right arrow key to move to the right. Then I'm going to use this shift up arrow to look up, and then I'm going to let's zoom out here. Let's move back here a little bit. I kind of want that rudder tab in the view so that I can know what the rudder setting is, and I can see everything that I want to see in this particular case. Let's see here what these yeah, they don't seem to even work. So all right, so those don't even seem to work. Let's move forward here and take a look at exactly what they are. Dim and bright. They don't seem to be functional, so let's hit F and go back to the main view here. So now I will look up. I'm going to move back a little bit. And I'll get it pretty much to where I want it. And I think that's going to be good. I want to be able to see the instrument lights. I want to be able to see the avionics master, and I want to be able to see all of these fuses. And then I also want to be able to see this position right here. So that's going to be my overhead view. So what I'm going to do is hit Control, Alt, and 1, and release. And then if we now hit F, we go back to the main view. And now if I just hit the 1 key, that's what I get. So now I have an overhead view. And when I set these initially, I anticipate this is going to work for what I'm using it for. But if I need to make a quick adjustment, let's say I want to look up just a little bit more, maybe bring the view down, then you just hit Control Alt 1 again, and it's saved to 1. It's very quick and easy to adjust, to make fine changes to these views once you get them set. So now we'll go to F, which brings us back to the main view. And now let's see what else Asobo has given us. I kind of like that view, but I don't think it really gives me anything that this view doesn't, except for perhaps this landing gear clutch. Nah, I'm not going to need that. So then I'll go back to this view. Now this is a view that I definitely want because I want the gear view, I want the fuel valves, I want these, I want the parking brake, I want the shutoffs, and I especially want the primer. So depending on the setup of the airplane, my number 2 view is always going to be either the pedestal in this particular case, or like in the ATR, I would use it for the FMC, or the 737, I would use it for the FMC. But in this particular case, this is perfect for getting a look at the pedestal and all these settings here. So what I'm going to do is then Control Alt 2, and we'll hit F, and now we just have to touch 2, and we've got that view. So now we've got up, we've got down. And again, and actually another quick thing, so if you hit 2 to look down at this view, you don't have to hit F to go back here. If you hit 2 to look down here, you can hit 2 again and it'll come right back here. So you tap 1, you look up, tap 1 again, comes right back down. So now let's see what else Asobo has for us. So 3, that's a good view. I like having a centered view of my instruments. Strangely, they have this view and that view. I'm not really sure what the difference is. I do kind of like having all of these fuses in here, and the compass light does not work, and this does not work. So let's see which one. Whoop. I kind of like this one. This one's I kind of like this one because I'm not losing out on anything, and it gives you a little bit better view of these buttons here, which also don't seem to work. But this, you get a little better view. You get a little better view here. So I think this is going to be a good one for the rate, kind of the instrument panel view. So again, Control Alt 3. That's my next view, and then hit F, and I'm back here. Now, if I want to look at the radio panel, or the instrument panel rather, just hit 3 again, and I come back. Now, if we want to get a view of, use my Tobii Eye Tracker here. Now, if I want to get a view of this panel over here, Asobo does have a default panel for that, and it's this one. The only thing is, if I move this a little bit, I'm going to get a better view of what this says, even though once I get used to the airplane, I'm not going to need to know that. But I can also get a little better view of these radios right here and the DME. And so I'm going to manipulate this view a little bit to get it more to my liking. And so what I want is to move down a little bit and then move out a little bit and look up here a little bit. And this gives me a better view, in my opinion, so I can see these radios, these nav radios a bit better. I can see this panel a bit better, and I can see all of this stuff quite nicely. I rather like this view. So what I'm going to do now is Control Alt 4, and when you first set a view, you do have to hit F to go back to the original view. But then you can use the view as you set it up. So now we've got 1 overhead, 2 down here, we got 3, the full instrument panel, 4 lower right panel. And let's take a look around the cockpit. Is there anything else we might really want to see? I don't think we're missing out on much. This is a pretty basic cockpit. So now I think I'm pretty happy with what we have in terms of the views, the pedestal, instrument panel, lower right panel. Because I think when I look down here, I don't really think I'm going to have to use that view very much. Actually, you know, maybe Asobo did have some wisdom. in that view right there, because that's going to help you set flaps. So then I think what I'm going to do is I'll set that to Control-Alt-5, because that's going to be an easy way, if I'm landing, just make a quick check of the flaps. I don't know why, but I feel like it makes more sense to have kind of a side view just to check your flaps and your gear real quick than going all the way down here. Sort of a quicker glance down. But in any event, you can see it's very, very easy to set these up. It's very, very, very easy to move them around. Now, in this airplane as well, so I'm pretty much happy with what I've got in the cockpit. Oftentimes, like I said, in the bigger, more complex airplanes, you can't move back into the cabin like you can here. And so in this particular case, now that I've got all of the cabin or all of the cockpit cameras set up the way I want them, I can actually look here and see if there is a window view that I would like. And so we'll set that there. And let's move back a little bit. And let's see here. And what I like to do, I like to actually kind of simulate sitting at the particular seat. And this looks pretty good. So I'll use Shift and right to look out the window. And that's pretty good right there. So use Control-Alt-6 to set this one. And what I'll usually do in these cases is I will set one view to be the right-hand window, the even number. So that's number 6. And then I will use the next number to give the same view but from the opposite side. So we'll go back here again, and let's see here. Go back here again. Down a little bit, over a little bit. Let's have a view here out the window. Alright, it's not too bad. Use the Shift left. That looks pretty good. So Control-Alt-7. So now we've got 6 is this view. 7 is this view. Not bad. And then what I also like to do is I also like to set a Copilot view. And the reason I like to set a Copilot view is mainly to look for traffic. If I want to look for traffic on departure, I want to be able to look out the window and see if there's anybody. Like if I'm making a left-hand turn onto the runway, this gives me the ability to look out the right-hand window here and check for traffic. So we'll take a look down, get ourselves centered over the Copilot seat, and we'll go Control-Alt-8 in this particular case. Usually I set the Copilot's view to 3, but 8 it will be for this plane. And we'll hit F to go back. And now we've got up, down, instrument panel, side panel. Got the quick glance down at the throttles and the flaps and everything. Then we've got passenger view 1, passenger view 2, and Copilot view. And now I've got 9 and 0 left. So why not come over here? Whoopsie. And this plane is a little different because you're angled. You're sitting at an angle on the runway. So on the tarmac rather. So I might actually have to reset views 6 and 7 and the 2 that I'm about to set right now, because once the airplane is at its normal attitude, See, I use once it's at its normal attitude, it might be a little different, and I might find that I want a slightly different view. And this is pretty cool because it's got the now we've got the aft facing seats as well. So that looks pretty darn good to me right now. So we'll go Control Alt 9, and then we'll go F to get back here, and let's move back again. Let's look down, get ourselves centered on the seat, and we'll come down here in the view. Let's zoom back here a little bit, or move back a little bit. There we go. That looks pretty darn good to me right now. A little bit of a perfectionist. Okay, so that looks good. You've got all corners of the window here, and then Control Alt 0. And now that is set. So we'll hit F again. So now 6, 7, 9, and 0 are the rear seats. 6, 7. Did I not set 9? Apparently I did not. All right, but in any event, you guys get the idea. And these are particularly useful, I find, with with the Tobii Eye Tracker, and I also use them with TrackIR as well, because when you're looking around, yes, can you zoom in? Can you look down at these things? Yes, you can, but it takes a bit of extra movement, I would say, rather than just having to go hit a number key and get the exact view that you're looking for. Just makes it a little easier, and I think it'll make it a little easier for you guys that are using, either a hat switch or your mouse to look around as well. And yeah, so just makes it easier to move around the cockpit to see what you need to see, given whatever situation you're in. And I hope that is useful to you guys. I hope this has done you some help. And I am really looking forward to flying this airplane. And I thank you guys as always for watching. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. And we will talk soon.